Hey everyone, it's Mark Hespin, host of On the Mark here on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. As always, follow me on all social media at Mark Hespin. That's Twitter/X. That's Instagram. That's YouTube here. Like and subscribe at Mark Hespin, MarkHespen. Follow the show every Saturday morning on News Talk 1070 KHMO and like the Facebook page for the show, On the Mark KHMO on Facebook. Today's Wednesday update video. Craziness happening in the NFL. We have franchise tags. We have quarterbacks being released. We have players who are officially hitting free agency like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry. But I want to take an opportunity to really talk about Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos. They have split. What's best for Russ? What's best for Denver? And where do these teams officially kind of go from here now that they're available? So let's start with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a guy that 2 years ago, as he was getting traded to Denver, we literally talked about him as like he's a borderline Hall of Famer. Like he could be a Hall of Famer depending on these next couple of years go, a couple of playoff wins, a couple of playoff appearances, add to the stats. Russell Wilson's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, his career has just been in an absolute free fall for 2 straight years, and he's clinging on to his kind of last chance to salvage anything of his career. I think Russell Wilson will get a chance somewhere to start right away. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, but he's got to be really, really selective and take this decision extremely importantly. He's getting paid the money. The money's not going to be an issue. It's going to be about, can he find a place where he can go on a 2-year run to salvage and negate whatever the heck this last 2 years was, and then maybe build that into another contract extension, or even just kind of riding off of the sunset of like, all right, I salvaged the end of my career. It went off on a more high note with maybe a playoff appearance or a playoff win somewhere. So let's think about that really quickly. If you're Russell Wilson, where are those places? For him, I would look to get back to the NFC as quickly as possible. If you're a quarterback, you want to get out of the AFC. The AFC is a nightmare. I mean, you think about Joe Burrow, you think about Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert. Then you add on the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers coming back healthy, Tua playing in that system in Miami. There is a lot of good quarterback play in the AFC. Get your butt to the NFC, where you really have to deal with Goff, Stafford, Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, he's Dak Prescott. It's a much easier slog of quarterbacks to handle. If I were Russell Wilson, I would obviously call the NFC South up right now. Atlanta, what are you planning on doing? I would love to come be your quarterback for the next 2 years in a really team-friendly deal. Tampa Bay, you not happy with paying Baker Mayfield a ton of money? I would love to come throw the ball to future Hall of Famer Mike Evans for the next 2 years of his career. Those are 2 really ideal landing spots for Russell Wilson. I also think if you're Russell Wilson, what are the AFC teams that you would consider going to? To me, I said, like I said, the AFC is such a slog, I'd want to avoid it, but there is one team, and it's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a really stable organization. Pittsburgh has Mike Tomlin in place. If Mike Tomlin gives him the vote of confidence and supports Russ, the team will rally around that, I believe. They have a win-now roster. They've been marred by injury and inconsistent quarterback play. So I think in the AFC North is extremely tough. Watson, Burrow, Lamar. If you throw Russell in there to start and, kind of take Kenny Pickett's spot away from him, I think it could be something in Pittsburgh. They'd spend nothing on him. They could still use all the draft capital to get younger, to get healthier, to get more depth, and be a big player in free agency. I think Pittsburgh needs to do that as well, just because they're falling behind the competition in the AFC North. Pittsburgh is the one AFC team that I think if I was Russ, I'd strongly consider. The only other one that I think if I were a team, I'd be interested in taking a flyer on Russ in the AFC would be New England. If New England looks at their situation and goes, man, we really want, Caleb Williams, but we're not going to get him. And maybe they say, hey, they really, really want Drake May, but Washington takes him. And you're not sold on Jaden Daniels, and you're not sold on J.J. McCarthy, and you don't have a good trade back partner. Well, New England could be in a really interesting spot where they take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3, and you bring Russell Wilson in to compete against Mac Jones. May the best man win, and you go from there. So keep your eye on New England as an outside chance. The Bucs, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, New England, 4 teams. If I was Russ, I wouldn't hate landing there. I think you could show up day one and be the starting quarterback for them, which is becoming really hard for quarterbacks, especially going into their third team to do, and you start bouncing around the league. It's hard to find those jobs where you just get guaranteed starter. Look at Carson Wentz. He just had to wait till halfway through the season to even find a job as a backup with the Rams. Finally, if you're Russ, it's really important no matter where you go to try to rehab your career visually, as far as just being a teammate, being a real human being. So many horror stories out of Denver that first year with The Office, with the way he spoke to teammates. That's going to be crucial for him and his legacy. And the other thing for him will be, can he find a way to win a playoff game, make the playoffs 2 years in a row with a new team? And that could really salvage his career. And if he puts up good numbers, we could still be talking about Russell Wilson as a Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, especially depending on how those 2 years go. On the Denver Broncos side of things, let me just give the Denver Broncos as much advice as I think I can. And if I were Denver, I would really strongly consider bringing in another veteran on a minimum deal. Whatever quarterback they're going to be picking, in their kind of late, early teens, maybe they move up into the top 10, but, in that kind of 8-9 range, it's not going to be one of the premier quarterbacks. I haven't given out my full quarterback rankings yet. We'll do that on the show coming up here in a couple weeks for how I really see the quarterbacks who are projected first rounders and going. But my guess is, unless Denver's getting into the top 2 or the top 3, they're going to end up with a J.J. McCarthy, a Bo Nix, a Michael Penix Jr., some guys that I'm just not 100% sold on right now. And I don't think the best thing for Denver to do, and I don't think the best thing for the young quarterback to do, is just throw them out there to the wolves with a Denver team that is not exactly loaded with offensive talent. They don't have the cap space and the cap money to go spend in free agency. And so if you're going to draft a Bo Nix, a J.J. McCarthy, any of those guys, a Michael Penix Jr., I'm pro that. Take one quarterback. You gotta reset your market. You got to reset your cap at the quarterback position, and you need someone. But I don't know if I'd want to start the year with those players as my franchise quarterback. Denver doesn't have a ton of money to spend in the free agency market, but if you could steal away Jimmy G from the Raiders or someone else to just bring them in Jameis Winston, he had some time with Sean Payton down there in New Orleans. You bring in a guy like that, a Jameis Winston, a Marcus, not a Marcus Mariota, a Jimmy Garoppolo, someone who can at least be there, be a presence, give that new quarterback a 5-game window of cushion of okay, you don't have to be the starter day one. And with Sean Payton, I kind of believe that if you give him a Jameis Winston, if you give him a Jimmy G, they're going to be pretty darn efficient and be able to, win some games and not be pathetic to where they're going to be 0-5 and you just got to throw the rookie in there because everyone's trying to save face and save their job. So if you're Denver, you got to capitalize on your draft picks because you need to be cheap and you need to be young because you're spending so much dead cap money on a quarterback who you totally whiffed on. One of the worst trades and worst contracts in NFL history. If you're Denver, find a rookie quarterback you love, draft him in the first round, second round, but pair them with a veteran who can start in Sean Payton's system and kind of lead and ease into that with. If you are Russell Wilson, find that team in the NFC South in Atlanta, Tampa, maybe New Orleans. Who knows if you can convince them to move off of Derek Carr, save money and go with the cheaper option. Or find your way to Pittsburgh or New England where you have a chance, especially if you can get yourself a Marvin Harrison Jr. in New England or in Pittsburgh with those good wide receivers and the culture they have there. Not a ton of spaces for Russell Wilson, but there's going to be someone who decides, you know what, I want Russell Wilson to be my starting quarterback. He'll get one more chance for Mr. Unlimited. Follow me on the Mark KHMO on Facebook. Follow all my social media at Mark Hespen, MarkHespen. Tune in Saturday mornings to On the Mark on News Talk 1070 KHMO and the KHMO app. And of course, like and subscribe here on the YouTube. See you next week.